Hello everyone and welcome to week 10 of me making my first own animated film. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to all my new subscribers. I'm happy to have you. As you've probably seen, I have started on rough animations last week actually. And these are probably gonna take a while. So what I've decided to do, instead of just saying yeah, I've been doing rough animations every week, I've decided to go through everything I'm doing in sort of like a deep dive type of way. And today we are tackling a couple of problems slash mistakes that I've come upon these 2 weeks and how I solved them. So these are probably beginner mistakes, but I don't know if these mistakes are necessarily, problems that all beginners will face. It might just be me, but I thought I might as well talk about them. So there are 3 things that I want to talk about today, and that is shading, slash also highlights, layering, and being lazy. So let's start with the first one. So when I was doing some of my first shots, I was trying to also add in lines or areas of where my shading or highlights would go later on in the process. For example, when I'm adding colors. I've seen that people do this. I've seen videos on this. This video in particular is quite good. Explaining why it's good to do this, but as I was doing it, I was getting way too much into it. I don't know if it's how you're supposed to do it, but I felt like this was making my rough animation process take way too long. And I felt like if I'm gonna spend this much time and focus on, adding the shading and the highlights, I might as well do it later on when I'm actually supposed to add them. This might be a mistake in of itself, but I don't know that yet. But what I did was I decided to not do that now, and I'll be putting a lot more effort and focus into doing that later. I'll let you know if this is a mistake. We'll see. So that was one of the first problems that I had to make a decision on. But I think the biggest problem I've had, or the biggest mistake that I've made up until now, has had to do with layering. So I did talk about this when I was doing my backgrounds, that I was focusing a lot on separating them into layers to make it easier for me in the animation process. I also talked about it in my latest video when I showed you how I layer my stage, but even though you put a lot of thought and planning into it, you still make mistakes. So I've had problems with background layering. I have had problems with layering my animations in general, and in both cases it mostly has to do with that I didn't separate a part that I should have had separated. For example, there was a chair in the first shot that wasn't separated from the background because I thought, I don't need that, but I've kind of needed it. So all I had to do was go back into Photoshop and cut that sucker out and fix it. So it's a little bit of effort, but it's not like a massive effort. When it comes to the animation part, most of it has to do with secondary action. And if you don't know what a secondary action is in animation, it's, for example, this scene that I've been working on this week. I have my main character walking. She has her little froggy and a backpack. And you would say that the main action here is she's walking. And then what would count as a secondary action would be if she had really long hair, it would be moving independently, from the rest of the body, or like her backpack would be bobbing up and down in a different motion than her, and the little froggy as well would be moving a little bit differently than her. So that is basically what a secondary action is. It's a complementary action to your main that really helps sell the illusion of, there's a girl walking on the street with her bag and her little froggy, and it really makes things come alive. So what my problem or mistake was that I didn't separate these parts properly. So at first I just draw all of her on the same layer. It's funny now, in hindsight. Then later on I realized that I had to separate the bag, the frog, all of that fun stuff. I actually also separated the upper body and the lower body in the end, because then she could keep doing the walking cycle and I could animate the upper body separately, which made everything a lot easier. And that's a sort of like a harsh lesson to learn while you're deep in it and you're kind of tired, and that actually leads us onto our last problem. Being lazy. If there is one thing that has helped my artistry the most, it's not being lazy. And I don't even know if lazy is the correct word for this, but you're drawing and then you want all these details and you're like, oh, this would be cool, and then you just don't do it because it's a lot of work, and you do, instead of putting all that work into doing these small fine details, you just do something sort of like halfway because you can't be bothered and you take shortcuts, and in the end, like, the art doesn't look as good as if you would have done that thing that you wanted to do because you knew it would look cool. For example, now, with me realizing I didn't layer things properly, it was like, okay, you need to separate this backpack from the rest of the body. You have X amount of frames, you need to erase the backpack from all of these frames, and then you need to redraw it or like copy paste it and move it around, there's just like a whole tornado in your head going, oh god, that's a lot of work. And there was a moment where I was like, no, but it's fine, like the backpack, it looks fine, I don't need to do that. Like, and I actually marked that shot finished in my spreadsheet, and then I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was like, but I actually don't want it like that. Like, I actually want the backpack to move as well. So I think when it comes to, at least for me, when it comes to my art and the stuff that I do, if there's a crossroads like this, when it's like, either I can do this really annoying thing and it's gonna look cool, but it's gonna take a long time, or I'm gonna not do it and I won't be as pleased as I would have, then I've decided to always go for the hard road, and then I'll be more satisfied in the end. So yeah, I don't know if being lazy was the right or like the correct term here, but all I know is that ever since I started thinking like this, I have been way more satisfied with my work, and yeah. This video has really like run away from me. I think this is the longest video I've made so far, so I'm probably gonna stop it here. Let me know about what struggles you guys face during your art journey. I'd love to bond over that stuff. And yeah. Follow me on my socials if you want more updates. I update there more regularly than I do here on YouTube. And I will see you next week. Bye bye!